In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate Russellian's solution to the puzzles that he has proposed in his paper on denoting. In our preceding videos, we have been describing those puzzles. Those puzzles actually arise out of the assimilation between proper names uh, and definite descriptive phrases. Those puzzles are three. First one is substitution of identicals, the second one is law of excluded middle, and the third one is known as negative existentials. So in order to pinpoint the problem, Russell makes us aware that we are habituated to think of statements in the subject predicate form as the ultimate one, and this conviction of ours gives rise to puzzles. That is why Russell made a very important distinction between grammatical structure and the logical structure of a sentence containing definite descriptive phrase. The grammatical structure of a sentence containing definite descriptions is the surface structure, and beneath this surface structure lies logical structure of the statement. Logical structure of the statement is the original form. Russell urges us to consider the logical structure of a sentence. A keen attention to the logical structure of a sentence will make us understand the elusive nature of sentences having definite descriptions. So, Russell's task is to go beyond the grammatical or the subject predicate structure of a sentence and to excavate the underlying logical form of the sentence containing definite descriptions. That is why he is making the very important distinction between grammatical form and the logical form of a sentence containing definite descriptive phrase. And this task is not a simple one. This requires us to analyze sentences. To be more precise, this requires us to analyze language, our day-to-day ordinary language. Philosophers calls it ordinary language. So Russell initiated this task to analyze ordinary language so as to have ideal language that will be free from ambiguity and vagueness. Our everyday ordinary language is full of ambiguities, obscurity, and vagueness. And Russell initiated the trend of reconstructing ordinary language, reconstructing ideal language so that it will be free from ambiguities and vagueness. And that will be an epitome of philosophizing. And ultimately, adoption of such ideal language will enable us to solve or to get rid of the metaphysical problems that so far has been popping up in philosophy. So now Russell introduced the paradigm of analysis of sentences containing definite descriptive phrases. In order to resolve this puzzle, he proposed the paradigm of analyzing sentences containing definite descriptions. Let's take the first puzzle, substitutions of identical. Now, in order to solve all the puzzle, he in his analysis he used the vocabularies that has been used by predicate logicians, vocabularies such as quantifiers, variables, etc. Now let's begin with the first puzzle, how Russell is offering solution to the first puzzle. Let's begin. The first puzzle, as we have already discussed, is called substitution of identicals. Substitution of identicals is a logical principle, is known as salva veritate, and basically is attributed to philosopher Leibniz. To encapsulate the principle in a single sentence, it can be enunciated thus: two expressions are identical in the sense uh, they refer to one and the same individual. So, when two expressions are identical, we can substitute one of these two expressions for the other without affecting the truth value. Now, there are such cases where applying this principle will give rise to such puzzles that Russell has encountered and enunciated in his paper. For example, in short, if somebody wants to know whether the author of Waverley is Scott, or to put it differently, is Scott the author of Waverley? So let's take this common example. Now, the questionnaire wants a piece of information whether Scott is the author of Waverley. Now, applying logical principle called substitution of identical, there will be some difficulty. Let's see what difficulty arises. Is author of Waverley Scott? Now, we know that the author of Waverley is a definite descriptive phrase. And Scott and the author of Waverley, these two expressions refer to one and the same individual. So we can substitute one for the other without altering the truth value. So we can reformulate the statement applying the principle, and the reformulated statement will be, is Scott Scott? All right. So actually, on the one hand, we are applying the logical principle, substitution of identicals. On the other hand, this gives rise to a meaning mismatch. How? Actually, the questionnaire wanted to simply know a piece of information whether Scott is the author of Waverley or not. Yes, Scott is the author of Waverley. His intention was to know a piece of information whether Scott wrote Waverley or not. He didn't want to make sure the law of identity. He didn't have any interest in law of identity. He didn't want to make himself sure whether Scott is Scott. He just wanted to know that he wanted to ensure is Scott the author of Waverley. That is why we can see that applying this principle in such circumstances gives birth to certain discomfort, certain uneasiness, meaning mismatch. So this is all about the first puzzle, and let's see how Russell is proposing solution in that case. The example that we have taken, the author of Waverley is Scott. Apparently, it seems to be a statement that is an uncomplicated one and in the form of subject predicate. So, at the first glance, it seems to be a subject predicate, a statement having subject predicate structure, and it seems uncomplicated. The phrase the author of Waverley seems to be the subject of the statement and refers to one individual, but a deeper analysis will make explicit the fact that the presence of the article the author of Waverley, the presence of the article the makes the statement very complicated one. So it is not as uncomplicated as it appears to be. Actually, definite descriptive phrases containing article the has varieties of uses. It indicates uniqueness, it indicates quantifiers. So a deeper analysis of the statement the author of Waverley is Scott will excavate the underlying logical form, and that will make explicit that actually the statement is a contracted form of a complex situation, what predicate logicians call quantifiers. Okay. So actually, the whole entire statement, the author of Waverley is Scott, this is containing a definite descriptive phrase. Apparently, it seems to be a statement having subject predicate form, wherein the descriptive phrase, the author of Waverley, refers to one individual being the subject of the statement. But it is not the case, and that will be visible once we start peeling off the surface layer and excavate the original form of the sentence. So let's see how Russell is analyzing this sentence using his logical tool. This is, as Russell is convinced that this is a condensed form of a complex quantificational situation. Okay, this refers to, actually, the presence of the term the here indicates uniqueness and existence. And also we need to take notice of one important thing, that is, the meaning of this statement hinges on our ability to pick out the referent of the expression, the author of Waverley. So on analyzing these entire statement containing the definite description that we have mentioned, three statements will follow. So at least one person wrote Waverley. At least one person wrote Waverley. This actually indicates the existential quantificational uh, attitude of the example proposition. At most one person wrote Waverley. This indicates the uniqueness. At most one person wrote Waverley. And the another sentence that follows from the first the sentence containing definite description is that whoever wrote Waverley is Scott. So altogether we get three simple proposition as a result of the analysis of the original one. At least one person wrote Waverley. This indicates the existential quantificational attitude of existential quantification of the original statement. And the second statement, at most one person wrote Waverley. At most one person wrote Waverley. This indicates the uniqueness nature of the sentence, original sentence. And whoever wrote Waverley is Scott. So, in quantification logic, we are aware of the fact that logicians admit of two quantifiers: universal quantifier and existential quantifier. So at least one person wrote Waverley. This is indicating the presence of existential quantifier, and at most one person wrote Waverley. In logic, this actually refers to the uniqueness quality. So now, on analyzing the original statement, the author of Waverley is Scott, it makes explicit that this is not a singular term as we have thought earlier. Apparently, it seems to be a sentence containing a singular term. Thus, author of Waverley is Scott, and this enables us to pick out a particular individual in the world. But analysis analysis revealed that this is not the case, and the puzzle actually arises out of the confusion, that out of the difficulty that we applied the rules of singular term to the expression, to the phrase, that is a definite description. So applying rules of singular terms to definite descriptive phrases actually gives rise to the puzzle. So the moment we analyze the statement containing definite description, will reveal that this is actually a contracted form of a complex situation that predicate logicians call quantifiers. actually the term is very complicated in the context of definite descriptions, and this actually indicates uniqueness, existence. That is why it is not a singular term, rather it is a definite description, and the very complex nature of the very elusive nature of definite description has been uh, revealed by such analysis. So when this is symbolized in symbolic logic language, this will make you understand that how Russell is actually applying the vocabularies of predicate logic. For example, at least one person wrote Weberly. If you see in his paper, you shall find that he is applying all the notations of symbolic logic. Uh, at least one person wrote Weberly. If you symbolize it, it will be simply like ex. There is at least one x such that is the author of Weberly. So ex wx within bracket. At most one person wrote Weberly. In logic, this actually has been shown in a different notation. Like for any x, if x is the author of Weberly, then for all y, if y is the author of Weberly, then x equal to y. The method of showing uniqueness is in logic is just thus. I mean, the way I have just narrated the symbolization, it actually indicates how uniqueness is being shown in logic, symbolic logic. For at most one person wrote Weberly, this indicates the uniqueness underlying the definite description statement containing definite description. For any x, if x is the author of Weberly, then for any y, if y is the author of Weberly, then x is equal to y. And this is about the uniqueness statement. Now the remaining statement, whoever wrote Weberly is Scott. So this is for whoever wrote Weberly is Scott. So the symbolization, if you follow in the denoting, that will make you understand that how Russell is using predicate logics notation, and this is not so complicated one. So first one is simply referring to the existence proposition, and the second one is uniqueness, and the third one that whoever wrote Weberly is Scott. For any x, if x is the author of Weberly, then x is Scott. Okay. So now with this, I'm going to end up today's discussion, and I shall be describing the solution towards the remaining puzzles in my subsequent videos.